Hi, everyone, and welcome to Inside AWAI, the online copywriting opportunity, a writing path with tons of variety and unending opportunities. My name is Rebecca Matter, and today I'm joined by Nick Usborne. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Good. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to hand it over to you in just a second. But first, I just want to cover kind of what we're going to do today. So we're going to take it from the very top to show you what the opportunity is. We're going to talk about what online copywriting actually is and how it's different from offline copywriting so that you understand the opportunity. We're going to talk about how big the demand is and why it's growing, why online copywriting is where it's at as a writer. We're going to look at the various projects. So when I say online copywriting, you might be familiar with some projects or not at all, but we're going to go through a variety of projects to show you just how much variety there is, no matter what type of writing you enjoy, whether it's sales, editorial, story, anything. There is a place, if not multiple places for you online. So we're going to look at the projects. Nick is going to show them to you and go through what it really entails so that you can kind of get a feel for what areas you'd be most interested in, as well as how much you can expect to charge for them. We talk about that a lot on Inside AWAI. If we don't get paid, right, it's just a hobby. So we're here to actually make money from our writing. And so we always want to talk about what you can expect to make and how to move that forward from the idea of making a living as a writer to actually out there and doing. So we're going to wrap things up with how you can actually get started. And then should you go down this path, Nick is always one more thing on top of that. He's going to also cover how to maximize your income. So when you are working with clients, how to make sure that you are getting the most out of every engagement that you take on. So it's going to start super beginning, giving you overview of the opportunity, and then take you all the way through, assuming that you decide that, yes, I'm in, I want to do online copywriting. He'll give you the steps to get started and make sure that you're successful. But before I hand it over, in case anybody is not familiar with Mr. Usborne, that's his smiling face right there. He's had 30-plus years of experience, 15 years offline, and then switched over to online and did exclusively online for the last 15 years and counting. He's had hundreds of clients over the years, including Disney, AOL, the New York Times, Yahoo, MSN, and Citibank, both writing for them as well as training their writers. So when you're learning from Nick, he's been in front of writers at hundreds of different companies, teaching them how to do what he's talking about today. He's a widely read columnist and the author of the critically acclaimed book on writing for the web called Net Words, Creating High-Impact Online Copy. This was one of the first books on the topic. Nick has really pioneered the career, the job function of the online copywriter. And he is the author, of course, of our program, Web Copywriting 2.0, your complete guide to writing web copy that converts. When I wanted to get into the online copywriting industry, I did a bunch of research. This is the guy I came across. It took me 2 years to get him over to AWAI, but he's been with us. Oh, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary of working together, and now he really helps us drive the online copywriting section of AWAI and make sure that our writers really are up to speed and understanding what's out there, where the opportunities are, and how to tackle them and take advantage of it. So with that, Mr. Usborne, I'm going to hand things over to you.
I think this is probably the only time and situation where you ever refer to me as Mr. Usborne. Next stop,
I'm being real formal today.
Yeah, next stop will be Sir. All right,
sir. Yes,
so what is online copywriting? Well, basically, and it's a kind of simplistic answer, it's the words on websites. And I make the point because offline copywriters, it tends to be, oh, well, I write print ads or I write, radio spots or billboards, TV commercials, things like that, where you can look at it and think, okay, that's absolutely the work of a copywriter. Copywriting online is a little broader than that. Yes, we write sales messages, the way you expect a copywriter to do, but we're also writing, we're writing the rest of the website. We're writing any of the words on a website. You look at me, look at them, and I can say, yeah, that's the work of an online copywriter. Now, I might be content writing, I might be sales writing. We'll go into a lot of that in detail as we go through. But really, I want to make the point that whatever you see online, you can jump in there and be the kind of content, the online web writer that does that work and gets paid for it. So, broadly speaking, as we get into this, is there a demand for online copywriting? And there's a huge, massive yes here. E-commerce, in other words, business done online, has become a $300 billion industry. That's just in the U.S. Still growing fast, $370 billion anticipated by 2017, so just next year. And most significant of all here is it's growing at a rate of almost 20% a year, and that is the whole business of e-commerce. If I were going to break this down and look at things more specifically like social media, like the growth of mobile, that growth rate, we're getting up into 50% a year, 60% a year. It's insane. And this money is coming from somewhere, and it's actually coming out of traditional advertising. It's coming out of TV. It's coming out of print in newspapers and magazines. It's coming out of radio. And in fact, the pie is also growing. So the foundation of where our work is at in terms of doing business online is growing at a phenomenal rate. And of course, we're growing across platforms. It used to be just desktops, then it was desktops and laptops, and it was desktops and laptops and smartphones, and then tablets and phablets and whatever. It's like there's so many different kind of platforms now and devices where we can consume. And of course, every new device that is added to the pile, more work is required. So there is a ton of work for every kind of writer imaginable. And with that abundance comes choice, which is a wonderful thing. And it was very different for, I started out as a copywriter or freelancer back in the early 1980s in London, England. And at that point, abundance, not really. A lot of companies never used freelancers, didn't really respect freelancers, and I just had to go where the crumbs were when I started out. Very different story today. And part of that is driven by the fact that this market, the online marketplace, is growing so fast, companies have been totally unable to keep up with that demand, their in-house hiring. They just don't have the in-house writers. They don't have the in-house copywriters. And sometimes when they do have writers, those writers do not have the training as online writers and online copywriters. As Rebecca referenced a few minutes ago, I mean, a lot of my living over the last 15 years has been training in-house writers in companies all across North America and in Europe, simply because there's massive growth, massive demand, and not nearly enough supply in terms of expert online writers. Now, in terms of what can you do, what do we mean when we talk about online copywriting and online writing, web writing, I'm just going to run you through a bunch of pages here just to give you a taste. Write sales pages and landing pages. So this is probably the first thing that jumps into people's minds when we talk about writing, copywriting online is, hey, I'm going to be a copywriter, I'm going to be a sales copywriter. And absolutely, there are tons of opportunities for using hardcore copywriting skills online. And there are tons of companies that need sales pages, landing pages, subscription pages. We're going to look at some of these, things where you need to sell and say, yes, please buy now, or, click or submit or sign up. But it's not, writing sales copy is absolutely not the only game in town. So if you don't see yourself that way, if you don't see yourself as a real kind of selling sales copywriter, there's an awful lot of other opportunities. For instance, you could specialize in writing home pages, or you could do that from time to time. I have. Writing a home page for companies is really interesting because it's a very unconventional page, totally different from any kind of offline or print writing. Because the purpose of a homepage, well, it has a few different purposes. You've got to tell people what the company's about, what they offer, what the value is. You've got to help people find their way deeper into the site. Just a fascinating skill to learn just in its own right, how to write a homepage. Content pages, some people see themselves much more as editorial writers, as kind of informational writers rather than sales writers. There are, what was it I was quoting the other day? Each year, Google is faced with indexing an additional 7 trillion pages online. 7 trillion new pages online each year. And the majority of those are content pages. They're blog posts, they're information, evergreen information pages, they're articles, things like that. Vast amount of content is required, and not just for media sites or information sites, but e-commerce sites, because they want to keep adding value. They want to keep adding interesting content. So this company here, Hypnosis Network, they're actually selling hypnosis CDs, DVDs, but they're constantly pumping out content because that's what brings people back. So huge opportunity here. Blog posts. So that last one was more of kind of evergreen informational content about hypnosis. Blog post, this is like about sunshine and sunflowers, so it's gardening related. So you'll also see you have an incredible variety of industries. If you want to do heavy-duty writing for truckers, that's fine. If you want to write for gardeners, that's fine. Wherever you feel your strength and interest lies, there is an opportunity, whatever the topic, whatever the type of writing. Emails. Email marketing. Email is weird. It's interesting. It's fascinating because in some sense it's a really old-school medium. Email has been around before the web. It was part of the Internet before we had the web. But email marketing is still a very big part of most companies' sort of online marketing toolbox. So, there's lots of people out there who make a living just as email specialists writing email for their clients. Related but slightly different, newsletters, often a little less sales and a little more information. You'll get some newsletters that feel a bit like promotional emails, some promotional emails that feel a bit like e-newsletters. It depends on the company, what they're doing, who they're talking to, the kind of relationship they have with their readers. But again, I know people who make a fabulous living just specializing in writing e-newsletters for their clients. I've had e-newsletter clients. It's been wonderful work, very profitable work, very enjoyable work. So if you think that's your thing, what I'm trying to do here is give you some sense of the scope. So there's not only abundance because this market is growing at such a crazy rate, and it's so easy to take that for granted and thinking, hey, Nick's just hyping this. But when you look at the figures, if you step back and look at the growth of commerce over the last 50 years, how fast it took TV to take off, how fast it took computers to take off, how fast it took the early years of e-commerce to take off. Everything is, we see growth, we experience growth in business and across different channels and media, but it kind of grows slowly. What we're seeing now, what we're seeing over the last 10 years and accelerating over the last sort of 3, 4, 5 years is a rate of growth that is just unprecedented. We've never, you go back 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. It's never, ever been like this before. We are in uncharted territory in terms of the growth of e-commerce online. And so when I say that demand for skills, and I'm not saying it's just for copywriters, there's all kinds of skills that are in demand right now online because of this unprecedented rate of growth. But for us writers, it's absolutely amazing. Simply because we've never been in a place like this before where there's so much demand and there's so much choice. So you want to write video scripts? Hey, video, so Nick, yeah? As
you're going through these, so a lot of people are definitely new to the world. So some of the items that you're naming, obviously a newsletter is a newsletter, but could you also just quickly, when you're talking about it, talk about the length of the project and maybe how companies use them and how often? So like a video script, for example, right. When you're talking about this, about how long the project takes, who uses it, that kind of thing.
Well, it's interesting. So video scripts, if you, again, go back a few years, and not many companies did do this, but with the growth of, first of all, YouTube, and then the growth in the use of videos in social media channels like Instagram, Facebook, etc., this is a market that, again, was almost nothing 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and is now huge. As for how long this takes, again, it really depends. Some of these videos, sometimes you're working with a company and they want a 60-minute video. So, this is a huge 5-figure project for you, and it's going to take weeks of time. I've done work like this, and it takes weeks. Other times, it's a 5-minute video. In social media, Instagram and Facebook, it may be a 32-second video. So these are things that are happening much faster. It's much shorter scripts. And sometimes it's not exact. Sometimes you're asked to not write an exact word-for-word script, but write almost like a kind of speaker outline to guide the person through. So they're not actually always using exactly the words you wrote, but you're keeping them on track and helping them as they speak. Because one of the things about the web, and particularly video, is that people look for and expect a far more natural writing style and speaking style and natural voice than, we were used to with offline media, like writing for print, which tends to be a bit more formal. I mean, you listen to me now. I'm talking off the top of my head. It's perfectly natural. Rebecca's jumping in from time to time. I'll probably jump in when Rebecca says something later. It's natural flow, and this is very much speaking to the way of the web. Video script is very difficult, actually, to address Rebecca's question on this example, simply because there's such variety. Honestly, it could be 90 minutes. It could be 90 seconds. It's amazing. Product descriptions. Okay, so here's a client. This is a client I had, Technogym, the wellness company. They make high-end home fitness equipment. I was writing, I think I had something like 20 product description pages. Again, a good 5-figure project where I was simply writing these. They were kind of pre-sales pages. They were kind of information pages. Was it the most exciting, the most thrilling project? No, it wasn't. Was it well paid? Yes, it was. But I'll tell you really why I stuck with it and why I chose it, and that is that the client was just a dream to work with. They were great. They were in Italy. They were based in Italy, so I had a bit of a time difference to work with. But they were fantastic people to work with. Really enjoyed that. So this is a project that extended over probably 3 or 4 months because we had a lot of work to do up front in figuring out a kind of style guide between us. So I was working with the client on like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to use images? How are we going to share the information? And, of course, before that, I'd done my estimate. We would all agreed on the scope of the project and what I was going to get paid, and then we jumped into it. So this took several months, this project. It was a big project. Some projects I'll take, like say, hey, here's a lead generation page, where simply we're just trying to capture people's email addresses and names. And this is in fact, is B2B, which means business to business. So this is aimed at companies, all about how their employees actually learn stuff. It's all about how to train their employees. Excuse me. So this is just a very simple page. So this was, as a project, this probably, took far less time. Although, I'll tell you something interesting about this page, is that although there's maybe, 100 words on this page, what's interesting about this is this was part of a test. So I wrote several versions of this page, each about the same copy length. We used different images. We tried different headlines. That'll be a fun thing that you'll experience online, is the whole world of testing. So again, this is a project that probably, because of the testing element, went on for a few weeks. And it was something where we'd write one version, we'd test it, we'd write 2 more versions, we'd test one against the other, and so on and so forth. Amazing thing about doing stuff online is that you can test stuff inexpensively and quickly, so that becomes part of your skill set, and you also begin to really learn about what works and what doesn't work. Lead generation pages, huge opportunity there for writers if that becomes a bit of a specialty for you. In terms of, we've got some slides specifically on income, but again, this could be a 4-figure job, it could be a 5-figure job, depending on how much testing you were going to do with it. Information company pages. This I did for a company. Again, this was a client I had in Japan. So I'll make the point. I never met these people. I never met the clients that I worked with out of Italy. I've never met most of the clients I've worked with across North America. I just sit at my desk like a hermit. I use the phone. I use email. So that's the other amazing thing about this, and totally different from when I was working as a freelancer 25 years ago, is today it's virtual. I can have clients anywhere in the world. You know, with Tokyo, Japan, it was a little bit tricky because we were 12 hours difference in our time. But other than that, I can work with anyone, any company in the world. There is no limits on who I can work for, on the size of the company I can work for, in the location of the company, on the type of writing I can do. Again, was this thrilling, exciting work when I was doing kind of company information pages about Ricoh? No, it wasn't, but it was actually a very challenging project overall, and the people were a delight to work with. And yes, this was a 5-figure project in terms of revenue. You know, when you start working, hey, you might be thinking, yeah, but I could never work for a big company like Ricoh. Hey, don't be so sure. It's like, this is a whole different discussion, but people who are just getting started have this feeling, they have this belief that they can only work for small, low-paying clients early on, and that is simply not true, and maybe we can address that a little later if I have the right slide, or otherwise we can address it in the Q&A. Hey, you want to write social media? You think you love the kind of fast-moving pace of social media? You see yourself as a much more conversational, snappy kind of communicator and writer? Tons, huge opportunity through social media. So this is a Facebook update. So they're linking to a page on their website, which has got the little bees at the bottom, but that text at the top, those 4 lines, that is written by a social media writer, either by somebody at the Burt's Bees company, or more often or not, by a freelance writer who specializes in writing social media. So that's something. Was this a thing 10 years ago? Nope, it was barely a thing 5 years ago. Today, it's a huge thing, a huge opportunity. Write buyer's guides. I've made a ton of money over the years with buyer's guides. So this was Future Shop. It's a company that doesn't actually exist anymore. It used to be a very big company. It was bought up by Best Buy. And they sell consumer electronics. And so I was involved with them on writing a whole bunch of buyer's guides. In other words, helping buyers choose between different printers or digital cameras or tablets or whatever. And the amazing thing there is it's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. In fact, I just said tablets. Back when I was working with this company, tablets weren't really a thing. I don't think we did do a buyer's guide on tablets, but they certainly needed one later on. So that's the next thing to understand about all of this work, is that when I was finished writing buyer's guides for Future Shop, that wasn't the end of the story. Those buyer's guides needed updating every year. I mean, think of digital cameras, for instance. Of course, that guide needed updating yearly. As new technology comes along, you know, virtual reality headsets, they'll need a buyer's guide for that. Again, absolutely a 5-figure project. So I'm making everything sound like a 5-figure project? Not so. I've done really small, quick and dirty stuff for $500. I've done plenty of jobs that are 4-figure jobs. But of course, the ones that we like are the 5-figure jobs. So now we're going to get into the fees. What kind of fees do these projects pay? So it's a really tough question. So this is just giving you an idea. An online sales letter. It really depends on the company. So I think any kind of sales letter where you are, you know, where that page is almost entirely responsible for converting a prospect into someone who buys there and then. You know, they click into the shopping cart and they buy something. Unusual that you would charge less than $2,000. The $15,000, that is at the higher end. It's usually going to be for a company that is heavily invested in kind of information marketing. These are going to be long-form sales letters. You know, this is going to be like the equivalent of 20 print pages. You know, the kind of thing, the really long pages, those ones. So can be anywhere in there, depending on the type of company and how much they value, how important that sales page is to their business model. A website. Hey, you write a small website for a small local business, and hey, maybe it's a $5,000 job. Do a website or even rewriting part of a website for a larger company, $40,000. It can be more. I put $40,000 because that's what I charged for a company when I was rewriting. I was probably, I don't know, I probably redid about 20 pages out of their site, like the top 20 pages, the home page, and then underneath that. They actually had hundreds and hundreds of pages on the site, but as as a kind of relaunch of their website. About 20 pages needed redoing, and I was charging, I charged $40,000 for that project. Online content, writing a blog post, an article. You'll get plenty of companies asking you to write a blog post for $15, $20, and you're going to say no to all of that. You shouldn't be writing anything for under $100. Very often, when you have a reputation, when you have a good relationship with a company and you've proven yourself, just a piece of content, you can be charging $500 per piece. People say to me all the time, oh, there's no money in online content, and that's absolute nonsense. There's tons of money, and I'm going to show you an amazing example in a moment. E-newsletters can be anywhere between $400 and $2,000 per issue. Again, I've seen higher than $2,000. You certainly shouldn't be writing an issue for less than $400. Think about that. Let's split the difference. Let's say $1,000 per newsletter. Let's say you're working for a company that publishes a newsletter a week, and you're the person who does it. $1,000 an issue. Let's say 50 issues out of 52 weeks, $50,000. One client. You just got to write a newsletter a week. You got a living there just with one client. Social media. What does social media mean? Well, it usually means, and it's going to vary from company to company, but typically they might say, hey, we want you to watch out for our Twitter account, our LinkedIn account, our Facebook account. We want you to add links to our latest stuff, our latest articles, our latest videos. We want you to promote stuff like that. We want you to be there and ask, jump into comment streams, respond to people, answer questions, things like that. Typically, you're going to charge $2,000 a month for something like that. Will one client keep you busy all day? Absolutely not. You're going to end up with 3 or 4 clients. So what's that? $6,000 to $8,000 a month. Not bad. Emails, again, it varies. If it's a simple, things like welcome emails, acknowledgement emails, you're not going to be able to charge much more than $100. If it's more of a serious sales email, if you're really doing some heavy lifting in terms of driving sales with emails, absolutely, I've charged $1,000 plus per email. Video scripts, typically, and again, it's going to depend on the company you're working with. It's going to depend on your expertise and experience, but between $100 and $500 per minute. 60-minute video, not bad. Hey, and there's white papers, landing pages, lead generation, blog posts, and more. There's lots of other stuff we can cover. I mentioned people keep saying to me, oh, Nick, all the money is in sales copywriting. There's no money at all in content writing. Yeah, well, I beg to differ, not only in my own experience, but meet Shelley. She's an AWAI member. When I first met her, she was just starting out. I mean, literally just starting out. I'm very nervous about whether she could do anything with her writing skills. And she wanted to be a content writer. She'd heard the same stories about content writers don't make money. Anyway, she messaged me through LinkedIn about 3 months after we first spoke, and she just picked up a $30,000 contract with one client to write content for their website. 6 months later, or 5 or 6 months later, I got another message. She just picked up another client for $40,000 for the contract. About 9 months after that, I get very occasional updates from Shelley. I think she's just extremely busy. She'd just hired something like her 4th employee for her ad agency that she'd built around this whole thing. So when people tell me, oh, there's no money in writing web content, I tend to just kind of laugh. So are there still any opportunities for new writers? Well, this is something else that I keep hearing from people. Oh, well, the market's saturated with copywriters and writers. There's no space for anyone else. And they point me to places like freelance.com and elance.com and say, look, there's millions of freelancers out there. Well, yes, there are, but the vast majority of them are untrained and not very good. And on the other side of the coin, there are millions of companies out there that need help. So I say there are 28 million companies in the U.S., which is true. But the majority, let's say 20 million of those are people like us, single-person businesses, so perhaps not clients for us. That leaves us just with 8 million companies that we could work with. Really? You think there's going to be a problem finding work if you kind of shake the bushes hard enough? Absolutely, you're going to find work because there are millions of companies out there that desperately need the help of trained online writers and copywriters and know they don't have those trained people on staff and know they're going to find it, and they're going to find it really hard going out into the world of things like freelance.com and elance.com and find people with the kind of knowledge and training they really need. So worldwide. Sorry?
Talk about that just for 1 second. Just go back one slide.
Yep.
Because I do think when you're new to this industry and you're new to the idea of making a living as a writer, this is like hard to wrap your mind around. 28 million companies. And these companies do not have writers in-house. They're not publishers.
Right.
Like when Nick talks about, you can make a lot of money as a content writer, imagine me and my company manufactures widgets. That's my job, fill in whatever you want for the word widgets. But that's my job. That's my expertise. That's what I do. In order to operate now as a business, I have to be online. All right, I know nothing about online. All I know is I manufacture widgets. I know how to get them to you. I know that I have the best widgets. But now you're telling me that I have to have a website. Now, Google is also telling me that in addition to that website, I have to have content. In order for people to be able to find me, I have to publish content on a regular basis. So now instead of being just a manufacturer, I also have to be a publisher, and I have to know how to write, and I have to know how to evaluate writing. So now I'm, okay, I've got my website, and maybe I have some content. But now I also have to be on social media, because that's where the people buying my widgets are. They're participating in social media now. They're going there to make their buying decisions. So I also have to be in social media. I just want to run my business. I don't want to write. I don't want to publish. I don't want to hire writers. I just want to manufacture widgets. That's the majority of the companies out there. That is, when you think of small, mid-sized businesses, those businesses, the owners, the people who are running the businesses just want to do their business. And that's why writers are in such big demand now. It's not about going out and looking for people hiring copywriters. It's identifying that problem. Hey, company ABC, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get your product in the hands of your customers. I can help you. I know that this whole web thing presents a challenge. I know that you don't want to be a publisher, that you don't want to write. That's where I come in. That's where I provide the value.
Right.
So I need everyone that mind shift. You're not doing this like it's not a favor when you're starting. It's not like you're asking for someone to help you out. When you're just getting started, you are providing a solution to a huge problem and presenting an incredible opportunity to all of these companies who need you. They need your writing because that's not what they do. They're not trained writers. They're businessmen. They own, or businesswomen. They have a great idea. They need to get it in the hands of customers, and they need your help. So you have incredible value, and you need to know that going into this because so much of this game of making a living as a writer is understanding your value and going, like Nick said, shake those bushes and going to the clients who value you. There were some comments about not writing for content mills, and we're going to open this up discussion during the Q&A. We're going to talk specifically about that. But yeah, it's not about going after the $1, $2, $5. It's about going after companies who really understand what it is that you bring to the table and need you. You are doing it. You have a superpower that they need in order to do business. So,
right. Okay,
I'm off my soapbox. Continue.
Well, hey, just to look at that a different way, let me throw a couple of numbers out there. I was reading recently the Washington Post. If you think of the newspaper, it publishes the newspaper, it's got like 100, maybe 150 articles in the whole printed newspaper. Washington Post Online each day publishes 1,200 new posts, new articles on the online version, 1,200 a day. Now, of course, media publishing, writing, that is their business. But you can be absolutely sure not all of those writers are on staff. In fact, I know some of those writers who write for them and they're not on staff, they're freelancers. So, but that's obvious. Of course, the company's going to, like Washington Post is a content creator, but I never imagined 1,200 a day.
That's crazy.
But at the other end of the spectrum, McDonald's recently announced that it was planning to publish 5,000 items of content over the next 12 months. McDonald's, I mean, what on earth would McDonald's write about? And do McDonald's have writers on staff, like professional writers? I don't think so. They know, to your point, they know burgers. They know distribution. They know general advertising. Do they have the staff to write 5,000 pieces of content a year? No, they don't. But again, to your point, is there one of these millions of companies who are waking up to the fact of, oh my goodness, to remain relevant, to stay in front of our customers, we have to be content producers and creators. And across all media, wherever our customers are, whether it's desktop or smartphone, wherever they are, we need to be there. And that's where the opportunity lies. It's because everyone, even McDonald's, is in the content creation business. And as for that content mill comment, I will physically get on a flight and beat anyone who works for any content mills and lives like for $5, $10, $15, $20 an article. Just don't do it. So 860 million websites online. Probably needs updating. This is the last kind of official number, but what I'm hearing now is, in fact, we've probably just tipped over into over 1 billion websites online. Now, that's an awful lot of websites, and the amazing. Let's say we'll cut it. We'll cut that by, you know, let's cut, instead of 1 billion, let's say 100 million websites worldwide. All of them need, the amazing thing about websites is they are never done. I kind of referenced this once before. They're never finished. When you create a website, when a company creates a website, it's not like they're saying, okay, we want a 20-page website, and when we're done, we're finished. We don't have to worry about it ever again. It doesn't work like that. First of all, a lot of, you know, a mid-sized company will have a website that is hundreds and sometimes thousands of pages in depth. The other thing is they're always having to add to that site. They are always having to update and edit that site. They are never done. So each year we're getting millions and millions more websites online. And any of those websites, so like I say, we cut back from 1 billion to 100 million. Here we'll cut back to 10 million if you want. All of those 10 million sites need adding to on a weekly, so often daily basis. They all need improving. I made a big living for many years, not just saying I'm a copywriter. I made a big living for years saying I'm an online optimization expert. And what I was doing there, I was still offering the same services as a copywriter, but what I was pitching was I was saying, hey, I will go in, I will look at your existing pages, and I will improve them so they work better. I mean, there are so many different ways to get into this market and make a wonderful living about it. So, yeah, all those sites need improving. Thousands of new sites and businesses coming online every day. I mean, it's huge. And this means that you can choose the kind of work you love the most. This is amazing. This is the big benefit of abundance, is you don't have to do the kind of work you're not going to enjoy. So let's jump in now. I got to be quick here. I got to speed up. I'm going to jump in on how to get those first clients. So this is just a super quick overview. First off, I mean, the simplest thing, anyone remember what that picture's of? Yep, it's the Rolodex. We don't have those anymore. I think you can still buy them, but I don't think people use a Rolodex anymore. But the point is simple, is just go back through, you know, unless this is your starting point as a career out of school or college, you know, you've probably worked places, you've probably met people, and think to yourself, hey, who do I know who works at a company or who runs their own company? I mean, when I started off, my very first client was a friend of mine who ran a small business, and he was my very first client as a freelancer. So go through your own kind of Rolodex, your experience, your work life. People at the golf club, at your church, wherever, people who are involved in business. And you're totally transparent. What I did with my friend is I went up to him, I said, hey, this is my first gig, totally new. In fact, I said to him, I'm not going to charge you. It's going to be free, but if you like what I do, I want to be able to use it. I want you to write me a testimonial, and I want to be able to use this experience, this project, as a little case history. So I was just building up a portfolio. Another thing is to reach out to smaller local companies. If you're scared of going for the medium-sized companies or the big guys straight off the bat, look around your local company. You know, maybe there's a gym or a spa where you go where you're on sort of, you know, smiling terms with the manager and you know them well enough to say, hey, same thing. I'm just having a career change. I'm starting out as a freelance writer. Let me rewrite something for you. Let me write some emails. Let me write your, you know, start your newsletter for you. Let me help you out with social media. Again, you're not, with these first few jobs, you're not after making a big amount of cash. Sometimes you do this as a freebie just to get something for your portfolio. But, you know, the local clients, that can be a super easy way to pick up first clients. I mean, I'm just trying to say is don't think this is really, really hard, because it's not. Tip 3, so this works every time. This is when all else fails, whatever else anyone tells you, just do this and you'll be fine. So think about the kind of writing work you want to do, the kind of companies you'd like to work for. Draw up a list of those 50 companies. Go to their websites. I mean, put it all in a spreadsheet. list those 50 companies, go to their websites, go to the contact page, either using their email address or their contact form. Just send a 2- or 3-line message asking for the name and contact information of the person responsible for digital marketing. And then you email that person with a super short inquiry email. You should take screenshots of this, all right? Take a screenshot of this. This is you can build a business in a week doing this. So you say hello, you say hi, my name is X. I'd be really grateful if you could give me the name and email address of the person in your company responsible for hiring freelance online copywriters. Thank you in advance. Sign it off. That is it. Do not send a long sales email or all about yourself. That is it. That is just 4 or 5 lines. In fact, within an email, that's probably a 3-line email. You send that out to 50, you will get replies. Sometimes some people won't reply. Some people will reply and say, sure, you need to speak to Rebecca Matter, and her email address is et cetera, or, hey, that would be me, where the person reading the email is the person for hiring freelance online copywriters. There are 2 key things happening here. One is you are finding out who's the right person to talk to, because most pieces of direct mail, most pieces of email, and most phone calls that go into companies looking for work end up in the hands of the wrong person. And I don't care how good your sales pitch is, if you're making it to the wrong person, you're not going to get the gig. So the thing here is you're getting in front of the right person. And then when you write to them, again, you don't go into that long sales pitch right away. You're saying, hey, Jack told me that you were the person to talk to about, freelance copywriting. Here I am. My name is Nick. And again, I'm just writing maybe 6, 7, 8 lines at this point. It's just an opening conversation. It's the first hi, at a party, whatever. If they're interested, they'll say yes, and then they give me permission to talk more about what I think I can do for them. Do that trick. Draw up a list of 50, then another 50, then another 50. Send them all that email, and you will start getting some prospects, and then you'll start getting some clients. So
I have used, by the way, Nick, that line of, I've told so many people to do this, and I get great feedback every single time, to call and say who hires the copywriters. Oh, Rebecca hires copywriters. Then call Rebecca and say, hey, so-and-so told me to call you about writing copy for you. It is like, it's such an easy thing, but it completely like takes the other person off guard. I expect if you say, hi, Rebecca, it's Nick. Jackie recommended I contact you about copy. I'm like, oh, Jackie recommended. Yeah, I don't even think that it's a cold sales call. Right. I assume that Jackie wants me to talk to you.
Right. So that is, it takes the terror out of cold calling and cold emailing. Because I got that email from Jackie saying the person you want to speak to is Rebecca, now I can say, dear Rebecca, Jackie suggested I get in touch with you. I'm not cold calling. You don't feel you're being cold called. It's like I already have a relationship with the company, and that's why this converts so well. I learned this. This isn't my idea. I learned this, in fact, from a coaching client of mine who had built her entire business. Like she had something like 20, 30 employees. This is a multi-million-dollar business, and this is the only way she acquired clients, and it's the only way she had ever acquired clients. And it was just a habit. They did it every day, and they got new business, each week this way, and you can do the same. So moving on, faster and faster. So, hey, sorry, I got to go back there. Tips on maximizing your income, really important. If you have a professional background in a particular industry, in other words, if this isn't your first kind of kick at the cat out of college, if you have some business experience or working experience within an industry, and unless you're thinking, oh my God, I never want to even think of that industry again, I mean, if you're still okay with it, that can really help, because now all of a sudden you understand the language, you understand the business, and you're immediately more comfortable working for companies in that industry. Do you have a strong preference for the kind of writing you want to do? If you do, my advice is always go for that. People say to me, oh, Nick, but somebody told me if I want to make money, I have to be a sales copywriter in the health and wellness industry. And I'll say, well, sure, there's money in that, but if that kind of writing is not the kind of writing you feel comfortable with or that you really want to do, you're never going to be really good at it. You'll never be as good as you can be because it's not your thing. Always go with where you're greatest, where you really want to do. And that is kind of allied with and goes side by side with what you're good at. So hopefully what you're good at is the same as what you would like to do. And that is what you want to do in terms of working to your strength. that is where you will wake up on a Monday morning and always be happy to, run to your desk and start working, because you're doing stuff you're good at and you're doing stuff that you enjoy doing, and that is the most powerful way to build a freelance business. Should you choose a niche or a specialty? Probably. So in this case, we've got, I've got wellness on the top left, I've got finance on the bottom right, top right, bottom left, I've got totally different. This is business to business, this is truck parts. Hey, you can make a living out of being a writer, content writer for the trucking industry, general aviation industry, medical instrument industry. There's so many different industries out there, not just the obvious ones. So wherever you feel you have some knowledge, where you have some enthusiasm, where you say, oh, I love general aviation. It sounds weird coming out of my mouth because I don't, but I know people who are totally into that space, and they do great work because they're totally into it. Does it help to have a niche like this? It does, because it helps you become an expert in that field. It helps you be seen as an authority in that field, and it also helps you with your marketing, because you know which companies you're going to go after. If you're going to wake up on Monday and say, oh, I've got to go after one of those 10 million companies Nick talked about, it's like, whoa, which one out of a 10 million? But if you've chosen a niche or specialty, now you've tightened things up. You know which kind of companies to make up, to choose from for your first list of 50. Incidentally, you don't have to niche by industry. You can also niche by writing style, like I'm going to be an e-newsletter copywriter, I'm going to be a content writer, I'm going to be just a sales copywriter, and so forth. Focus on clients who get your value. So not all companies understand the value of good copywriters. So how do you find out? Well, companies that rely on direct sales from their online media. In other words, any company that's selling something from their website that has a buy button, a subscribe button, a sign up button. These companies, understand the mechanics of driving sales online, and these are the companies that will generally recognize the value of good copywriting, because they've come to understand that good copy equates to more sales and more money. So, in any company where you think, wow, I love the way these guys market, like I'd love to do work with Red Bull, the Red Bull drink. Why? Because I think those guys are absolute rock stars when it comes to marketing. They don't really market the Red Bull drink. They market that whole extreme outdoor experience. I love the way they work. So I'd love to work with them, because I think, wow, they have a really strong marketing ethic. That would be a great team to work with. So that's one thing. If you go to a website and you think, man, this website is terrible, the marketers seem to be astonishingly unsophisticated, they're not even trying to sell anything directly from the website, it just seems to be an online brochure, I would walk away. It's tempting to think, oh, wow, they're so bad, I can help. But if they're that bad, they probably don't want to hire you anyway, and if they do, they're not going to want to pay you much, and they're going to treat you poorly. So try to get out there and find people who get the value of good marketing and good copywriting.
You've given so much already. I just want to make that point again, that is so counterintuitive. We think that we're looking for problems, that we want to fix the problem, that we can make a better website, we can write better email copy. And while that is sometimes the case, you don't want to go with a company who does not value their website. If they don't value their website, they're certainly not going to value you. You want people who actually care, who've got skin in the game, who've got something to gain and something to lose from good and bad content.
So, but it's also, it's like you got to find that middle ground. No, you don't want the deadbeats. If I want to go for Red Bull, I got to understand that, hey, this is not a 100% chance that I'm going to land them as a client. It's because they are that sophisticated and that successful, they got things pretty well covered. So I'm going to do a very good, very strong pitch to actually get in the door there. So I'm probably, if I want to actually totally maximize my chances of getting jobs, I'll do, in fact, what I've always done, which is kind of go for mid-sized companies, not the small ones, not the huge ones. I'll usually go for mid-sized companies that are pretty good at what they're doing. They get it. They get the need to do well online. They get the value of a strong website and strong marketing online, but where I can still see some potential for improvement. So I'm not going for the deadbeat. I'm not going for Red Bull. I'm going for that massively lucrative middle ground, the mid-sized company. That's been my bread and butter for the last, 30 years. Right. Leaping forward. Expand the scope of every project. This is like my favorite, in a sense. Maybe the last one was your favorite. I think this is my favorite. And that is, like, whenever a client gives me work, I'll always, almost always, 90% of the time, I'll convert the job they first gave me into a bigger job, a bigger project, a bigger gig. And I'm not manipulating them. I'm not being bad. I'm not being sneaky. I'm just saying, if they want me to write a sales letter, I'll say, how are you driving traffic here? And they'll say, oh, we're doing it with emails. And I say, well, do you want me to write the emails as well? Because it kind of makes sense that if I do both, because as we both know, the stronger the connection between the email and the sales page, the better the conversion we're going to get. And they're going to say, you know what, you're right, sure, do the sales letters, almost always. Want social media, they want some content pages. Sure, I can write those content pages. And I'll say, hey, we should probably be optimizing these for social media, yeah, because I see you have social media channels. And, hey, if I'm doing the content pages and I'm optimizing them for social media, do you just want me to take control of that whole social media update side as well? Because that's going to make sense as well. I could say, I'm the guy writing the content. I know exactly how to pitch this through social media. You see what I'm doing? It makes sense. I'm not being manipulative. I'm just saying, hey, it makes sense for me to do more than you first thought I should do. You want that homepage rewritten? This has happened to me like at least 10 times. They say, oh, yeah, please rewrite the homepage. And I'll say, sure, absolutely, and we'll look at it, we'll discuss it. And I'll say, you know, you're kind of linking to 10 second-level pages from this homepage. If we change significantly the homepage, and that's what we're talking about, there's going to be a disconnect now. When I click from the new homepage, the new look and feel and message of our new homepage, click through to that next page, it's going to look, feel, and sound a little off because we're making some dramatic changes to the homepage. Why don't I not only look at the homepage, why don't I also take care of updating those other 10 pages as well? And again, they almost always say yes because it makes absolute sense. So that is, again, the wonderful thing about the web. Like, you know, offline, it doesn't work. Oh, I wrote that print ad for you. Why don't I write the TV commercial? It's like, what? That doesn't make sense at all, Nick. Go away. Online, because everything is connected. Everything is connected. It's just one click away or 2 clicks away. It's all about, it's just a click away. Because everything is connected, it's super easy to expand the scope of almost every project you do. And in fact, expand the scope of your entire relationship with that company and client. So you're not in a position of where it's like, oh my goodness, I have to find new clients every month, every year. No, you don't. I mean, the bulk of my income has always come from long-term relationships with a small handful of clients. Yes, I'm always feeding the hopper with smaller clients, hoping that one of them turn into a big one. But what I really rely on is these long-term relationships where I'm doing good work, I'm expanding the scope of the project, I'm expanding the scope of the relationship. Wonderful stuff. So, how to get started? I think I now get to rest my voice for a minute, Rebecca, and hand over to you.
Yes, and I do want to say that the last few slides that Nick covered is definitely more advanced material. So for those of you who are saying in the Q&A that you're super green and you're just getting started, we always want you to have this information. You need to know. We find that the reason a lot of writers stall out or lack confidence is because they don't know what the next step is. So we always like to make sure that you know, even though you're on step 1, that you know what 2 and 3 are, so that as you move through the steps and you're approaching them, you're not afraid of what's coming because you already know it's there. Now you're going to have to, of course, come back and relearn it. Now you know this material is here. So when you go to say, okay, I'm going to write content and social media, great. How do I get started? Now you're going to come back to this presentation, you're going to go back to those slides and, you know, and to this Q&A that we're about to open up, and you'll get those answers. Or you land your first client. I saw somebody who's done a ton of content, and I said to her in the Q&A, well, now it's time to leverage that content into bigger paying contracts, for 1, and 2, to increase the scope of those projects, which Nick just talked about. So when you get there, you come back to this presentation, you watch that one part, and you're ready. We just like to make sure that you know what's coming at any given time so that you're prepared. Again, this is not just a one-step kind of thing. You know, this isn't a hobby. This isn't like I'm going to pick up knitting and I'm just going to go buy some needles and a book and some string and I'm going to start knitting stuff. There are steps. You're going to be moving forward. This is building a business. This is putting up a website. We're here to help you every step of the way, but it's just a matter of knowing what the steps are and continuing to move forward. So what are those next steps? And now we're going to open up in just a second. So if you have questions, go ahead and post them in the Q&A. The first thing you're going to want to do if you want to be an online copywriter and to to command these types of fees is to get professional training. There's a big difference between all the people out there who are saying they're copywriters and saying they're content writers than people who have actually been trained. And we marketers, people who hire writers, we do know the difference. We can tell the way that you market yourself. We can tell by your samples. Somebody had a question about samples. What if I use Nick's technique and they write me back and say, great, send me samples. What do I do? And I wrote back, write them. Write samples. We know as marketers, all we're looking for is your writing style. We want to see, can you string words together? Do you understand my audience? You know, can you write? It doesn't matter if anybody has ever mailed them before. I don't care if I'm your first client. I just want to know that you can write. So you will write samples, and I can tell from those samples that you've been trained, that you do understand what you're doing, because a lot of what Nick was talking about, there's tons of project types and tons of variety. Any kind of writer you are, there's a fit for you online. But each project type does have a specific style. It does have a specific way or intention of why we're using it and how we're using it. And so you do need to understand that, and you need to understand the nuances between something like content and social media and meeting the person where they're coming. If they're on social media, the mindset is slightly different than if they're reading content. It might be slightly different than if they're watching a video. So there's a little bit of these things that you have to learn. So you want to get professional training. You want to put up a professional website. That's step 2. Step 1, get training. Step 2, put up a website. We have a very easy 4-day series that shows you how to do it. You're going to put up a LinkedIn profile. You want to be a professional. And to say you're an online copywriter and you don't have a website, it could be a little bit of a challenge. It's kind of like, you know, a dentist with awful teeth. You know, you need to be in your field. And your website is a great training ground for you anyways. You should want to put one up and practice doing the things that you're trying to do for clients. It's a great sandbox, if you will, to play with your skills as you're learning them. And then finally, reach out to your best prospects. And we're going to talk about this in the Q&A because I did see a question specifically about this. How do I shake the bushes and find the right company? So I'll ask Nick to give us some advice on that in just a minute. But you want to reach out. It's not about just sitting back and getting what comes to you, what crumbs and scraps are thrown to you. You want to be proactive. There are companies that you believe in, products that you use. Who better to write for them than you, right? Or you have years of experience in some field. You've been installing solar panels on roofs for 10 years, and you understand the technology. Hey, go write for that industry. You have all that experience. Or you've been a nurse, or you've been a mechanic, or you're a CPA, or a lawyer, or a teacher, whatever it is. You come with some level of experience. Why not write for the companies that you really can benefit, that you can help because you have all this expertise, information, passion. Let's say you've taken martial arts for 10 years, right? And you know exactly what that business looks like because you've been there. You're a customer. You're a buyer. Who better to write their copy and content than you? You're the one who they originally sold. You understand the benefit of what they're selling. You should write for those companies. So reach out, and we're going to teach you to be proactive and to go after the jobs that you want and not just what's out there, you know, who's advertising. So if you decide to take this path and you want to get training, you know, we don't really do a lot of selling inside AWAI. It's more of just letting you know what products we have available. This is Nick's program. It's Web Copywriting 2.0, your complete guide to writing web copy that converts. This is it. This is professional grade training. This is the same training that companies pay thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to come in and train their copywriters years ago. Sorry, am I not the presenter? Oh, Nick, can you hand me the ball? I'm on the next slide.
Oh, I've moved it to the next slide. I don't even know how to give you the ball.
Cameron, can you go ahead and pass me the ball? Please. Thank you, ma'am. So this is Nick's program. This is what I'm pointing to. If you could see me in my office right now, I am jumping up and pointing at my screen. So that's the program. This is the training that he, again, went into companies. They paid thousands, tens of thousands for him to go and train their copywriters way back in the day. This is the same training. This is exactly how he trained them. If I consult with a company, this is the program I bring in. Somebody made a joke in the Q&A that, you know, your clients don't know what they don't know, and you'll go and say something, and they'll think, they'll say, oh, you're a marketing genius, you know all of this. Well, yeah, I'm just repeating page 27 from this program. I repeat so much of what Nick has taught me over the years about online copywriting, and people think I'm a marketing genius. We literally have people calling after the 6-figure program. They said, you know, I just told them the 4 years, and they think I'm the most brilliant copywriter in the world. Yes, use our stuff. This is the kind of training. If I consult for a company, I bring this program in. I say I'm not going to teach your copywriters anything. I won't talk to your marketers unless they've gone through this program. This is that quality of a program. If you write for me, you have to go through this program. There's no way I'm going to hire an online copywriter who hasn't been through this because I have to then teach you, right? I want you to at least have this, and then we can make you, of course you're going to get better over time, but this is the prerequisite, if you will, to being an online copywriter. You have to have this training. What I love about this program, along with being an awesome program, step-by-step, he walks you through all the different content types, all the different project types. We have these training videos because a lot of times we talk about stuff, oh, put a text box here, oh, do this. And you're thinking, well, that makes sense for you, Rebecca. You've been working in online marketing for all these years, but I don't know what you're talking about. We show you. So we visually, on your screen, show you how to do these things that we're doing in the program. And then finally, one of the things I think is really awesome that we added to this program is a workbook. Because a lot of us take programs, but we don't know, did we actually learn what we were supposed to learn? I went through it, I did the exercises, but did I actually master the concepts? So this one has a workbook that goes along with it so that you can be sure that when you get the assignments that you are able to do the work the clients are paying you to do. When you finish with that program, you'll know about writing for the web more than 99% of most copywriters. And I am 100% serious about that. It is really sad to me how many people contact me outside of AWAI, how many people contact me on a regular basis wanting to write for me, and I can just tell that they just don't understand online copywriting. This program is, you will be better than most of the people out there who are claiming to be online copywriters. It makes it way easier for you to land clients. You will be able to talk the talk out of the gate, along with being able to do the work when you get the job. You'll be able to get the job better because you'll be able to understand what it is that you're talking about. Your clients will see you as a much more valuable asset than just a contract for hire. And with the program, Nick does help you get business. This is a huge part of it. At AWAI, I always talk about, we don't just give you the skills, we want to help you get clients too, because at the end of the day, if nobody's paying you, then it's just a hobby. And we're not afraid to talk about money. We're here because we want to make money. So we need to do things. We need to build our business. And so he helps you choose the right niche. He helps you put up a website. He helps you land your first client. Really gives you this great step-by-step process to make sure that the project goes smoothly. That's a big fear a lot of people have. You take a program, okay, I've got the skills, great. But I've never actually been in marketing. I don't actually know what it looks like to work on a project. Who's going to be involved? What is the process? How do I make sure that I dot all the I's and cross all the T's without looking stupid? He gives you this great process that you can follow to make sure that the project runs smoothly, even if it's your first one. And we even give you feedback. This is a big part of this program. We have you write an assignment for Wealthy Web Writer, which is one of our membership sites, and then we give you feedback on it so that you can turn it into a sample. And that way, when you are starting out and going to land work, you can use the sample to attract clients. And when they ask you, great, do you have any samples? You can say, absolutely. And you'll be confident in your sample because you know it's good. I did set up a special link. This is actually not on special right now. So if you go through our website, it's going to be the regular price. But I happen to know that we're having a promotion on it later on this month. So I had my marketing team put a link in here. Don't go through our catalog. Don't go through anywhere else. Go through this link if you decide to sign up for the program, because it'll be $150 off. I just didn't want you to buy it today and then see a promotion 2 weeks from now and say, hey, Rebecca, that was pretty not fair, since I bought it 2 weeks ago and now it's $150 off. So I had them turn on that link so you can access it. And then that deal goes all the way through November 17th when we're running the actual special. Okay, so let's open it up for questions. Again, there's the link in case you need it. And then, of course, our member services team, if you ever need anything, even if you buy something and then it's on sale the next day or you missed the deadline or whatever, they're the nicest people you'll ever meet in this business. Definitely call it. Or if you can't decide between two programs, or you're stuck on something, or you've got a client on the phone and you're only halfway through the program and they want to know something, what do? Call member services and they will reach out to me, they'll reach out to Katie, they'll reach out to Pam, we'll reach out to Nick, or whomever can help you. We're here, always for you, and we're here to help. So with that, let's help you now and answer some questions. Let me head on over there.
Yeah, Rebecca, this is Pam. I just wanted to mention that we did flag a few.
Thank you. I see them. This is awesome. 137 questions already.
Oh, yeah.
We
didn't flag all of those.
Today.
We've answered a lot of them already, but there were a few that would be fun for Nick to respond to.
That is awesome. Okay, I'm going to clear it. A couple people have left, so I'm going to clear or one person. One person has left. So as far as writing product descriptions, Nick, you had talked about that as one of the options or one of the projects And Gina wants to know, what is the best way to approach companies about that project? And I guess while you're talking about it, maybe just in general, if I know I want to write social media, if I know I want to write product descriptions, what is the best way to get into a company?
For a specific project like that, I guess I would, first of all, I'd take the route I described with my 50 short emails so I can get to the right person. And when I get to that person and I get into conversation, you know that whole thing we talked about where I do the inquiry and then I say, hey, Rebecca, Jackie suggested that you're the person I should talk to about this, and your ears perk up. And at that point, if product descriptions are my thing, and if in your business on your, you have e-commerce like with that gym stuff, if you have pages like that, when I get into that conversation with you at the beginning, I can say, look, I really wanted to reach out to you because, first of all, I love this stuff. I live and breathe this stuff. And secondly, because I've made something of a specialty of optimizing, of writing these kind of product descriptions. And I wonder whether you might be interested in hearing more about that. Now, if I can touch on their thing, if I've been to their website, I see that clearly their business depends on these product descriptions being done well so that they can kind of convert people into buyers. If I'm touching on something that clearly is important to them and I'm enthusiastic about it, that's my way in. And it'd be the same whether I'm talking about product descriptions or social media. So let's say it's social media. Like when I get hold of, hey, Rebecca, Jackie said I should talk to you, and I said, look, my thing is social media. Should I be talking to you? Because if I don't want to waste your time, if there's someone else I should talk to specifically about social media, let me know. And in some companies, that may be says, well, you're right. Yes, I'm responsible overall, but in fact, if it's social media where you think you can help us most, then you should be talking to John because he's our social media guy. So you're constantly looking for the right person, and when you find the right person, you are, in a sense, you kind of get a feel for this a bit when you listen to Rebecca's voice. And that is, you overwhelm them with enthusiasm.
Oh, sorry. I love this, man.
If this is your thing, and this is honestly, this is how I win work. I remember on a speaking gig once, I got like a year's worth of work after a 60-minute talk. And when I look back, I know why. I know exactly why. It is probably the most enthusiastic, engaged talk I've ever given in my life. I was just on fire. And people love that. People love that enthusiasm and kind of devotion to what you do, that devotion to doing what you do well. You don't even have to be the best. You just have to be the most excited about doing well. That is the best way to sell of all, because I tell you, I've been a client, I've worked with dozens of clients, if not hundreds, and I know that what clients love in a freelancer is someone who's really excited about their business. Like if Rebecca talks to you and you're new, and she just hears genuinely in your voice that you might have taken the trouble to figure out what business Rebecca's in, and secondly, that you are genuinely, truly excited about it, Rebecca's going to love that. Even if you're the second best or the third best copywriter that she can choose from, if she feels that you are genuinely excited to help her business, I bet she'll choose you. So, Rebecca, you have to speak to that because I've got
absolutely.
Well,
as I'm sitting here, I mean, clearly I'm enthusiastic about AWAI. I love this company, love our members. Online copywriting, this was the first area of the business when I joined 13 years ago that I expanded AWAI into. We used to just be direct response copy as well as resume writing and travel writing. And I was like, no, there's this huge opportunity over here. There's this guy, Nick Usborne. I'm going to get him in here. We're going to do this. AWAI is we have to take advantage of this opportunity for our writers. And so I've been enthusiastic about this for years. So that's what you hear today is just this. I've been doing this for so long, and I love, Nick, that you and I get on. We've been doing this for this specific call. We've been doing this for 10 years. It used to be a teleconference, now it's a webinar. But it's funny because at the end, I'm genuinely still like, oh my gosh, this is so much bigger than it was last year. So the enthusiasm is genuine, and that's why I think most of my writers, like 90% of them, the only time I hire someone who's not an AWAI trained writer is if I need something specific, like for a Clayton Makepeace program. And even though nowadays I still hire writers who've been trained by Clayton for Clayton stuff, it's very rare that I don't hire an AWAI member to write our stuff. And it's because of their enthusiasm. Who better to write for us than people who believe in our stuff, right? Who know that we put out quality programs, who know that we're helping people, who want to help drive this movement.
Every company feels the same. It's, you
Agreed.
know, when I worked with that fitness equipment company, you know, I've been, you know, I have some of that stuff at home, and I'm kind of into it enough that I could talk. You know, they knew that I knew it, and they could hear that I was interested in it and excited to see what they were doing. And that goes an awful long way to getting the work, is when they feel genuine interest and enthusiasm on your part.
This is interesting. I'll just delete it. It's about asking, I've been talking a lot about this lately. It's about asking about a subject line to get someone to open the email. What subject line should we put to get a company to open the email? Whatever anyone tells you out there, don't do it. Like whatever gimmicks or tricks they're telling you, oh, always put this in your subject line and that gets people to open it. Just be real. Instead of trying to mail 2,000 people, be genuine, provide value, right? Go out and find the companies that you want to write for and send them a real email. Marketers can sniff out sales emails that have been sent to thousands of people like nobody's business. That's what we do. If I can sniff out a subject line that I know isn't to me, it immediately gets deleted. I don't even open it, for one. And two, if you trick me into opening your email, I'm just going to get pissed off, and I'm never going to open an email from you again. I won't even read the email. If I get tricked into opening it and I open it, line one, I can tell that I was tricked. You are done. I have blocked you, spammed, I've marked you as spam, and you will never make it into my inbox again. So don't listen to tricks and gimmicks. Be genuine. You're a person. You're a business professional selling a professional service to another person, right? Me. Talk to me like I'm a real person. What value? If you want to talk to me, if you want to take 10 minutes of my time, what can you provide? What value do you bring? Make it worth my while. What's in it for me genuinely? Not I found your website online and I think I can help you and that's it. No, Rebecca, hey, been reading AWAI for 20 years. You know, I'm so excited. I want to work. Be specific, like Nick was saying, show your enthusiasm, provide value, just be thinking about how to create relationships with people. The chance of you calling someone and then saying, that's so funny, I just wrote down today that I need a social media manager and here you are calling me. That's very rare. Just put yourself out there and just start making relationships, start talking, what do people need, and know that that's part of this game, is to be genuine, be enthusiastic, be helpful, provide value, and just start a conversation. You'll be surprised you'll hit this tipping point, and then all of a sudden, all of that work that you laid for months will all just come through, and then boom, 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 the momentum starts. So don't worry about getting someone to, quote unquote, open the email. Just be a real person.
So again, it's kind of counterintuitive, because a copywriter, having learned the craft of selling through the art of persuasion and all that good stuff, their natural inclination is to be a sales copywriter or be a clever copywriter when, you know, reaching out for work and writing those emails. But I'm exactly the same as you. Exactly the same response, because I get all kinds of people reaching out to me. They want to offer me various services, whether it's writing services or design services or web. I get 10 a day from these companies.
Easily.
That's just me. This is just me. I'm not talking about you and your company. I get 10 a day of these. And 9 out of 10, more than that, I delete within the first second, because they're playing a game that I've been playing for 35 years. They think they can fool me with their clever intro. I've been doing this. I've been doing this before most of them were born. They don't think I see what they're doing, and it's like Rebecca. As soon as I see they're trying to play that game with me, bam, gone. Never again.
Done.
So it's counterintuitive, but if you want to sell yourself as a copywriter, stop being a copywriter. And that should take the pressure off. I mean, if you think about it now, like it takes all the pressure off, because now you don't have to be, I'm going to say clever or witty, but it's good to be clever or witty, but in your copy, you don't have to have this like magic button, and you don't have to be all slick.
you can just be who you are and be a real person who genuinely wants to work for that company, who genuinely understands their value. You're a problem solver, right? We're just solving problems, helping people get to what they are hoping to get to, right? We're just trying to help businesses accomplish the goals that they've set for themselves. That's it. We're not trying to get anything from them. We're just here to help. Now, we provide a lot of value, and we expect to be paid well for that. But you don't need to be, you know, anything slick. So hopefully for a lot of you, you feel a little bit like, okay, that's a big relief. Like, I don't have to be this amazing cold caller. I don't have to have this marketing machine set up. No, you can just totally be a real person and just connect with people individually, one-on-one, and try to help them accomplish what they're hoping to accomplish.
Right.
So I'm trying to think about which one to ask you. This is a general question, which it's definitely more of a newbie question as far as starting into this whole industry, but the perception is that they're asking you specifically, don't you think that all companies with websites would launch the website without somebody writing it? What would you say to that?
Sorry.
So I guess a brand new company.
Right.
Don't you think they would write their own website?
Again, it depends on the sophistication of the company. It's a good point because some companies do, particularly if they're technology-based, and it's been a huge thing that I've been fighting against since the 1990s. Is saying to companies, hey, when you're creating your website for the first time, you've got the coders and developers, you've got the designers, you've got the founders. Where's the writer? Why isn't the writer ever at the table right at the beginning? Because it's the writer who's going to come up with the message that's going to either make you shine or not. So, interesting question, because it was an issue back then and it's still an issue right now, is that very often the writer is not at the head table when a company first launches its online presence. So I've been fighting that forever for a place at the table, and smart companies do understand that now. But I will also talk to clients I've had clients where I've actually made the approach, and it's a tricky approach. One of the hardest approaches to a company is where basically you walk up and say, you know what, your site sucks. Because you can never say that. No. So you have to find a way of gently saying that and finding a way of, like Rebecca was saying, a value-added approach that is basically saying, you know what, I can make your website even better, which of course you can because it sucks.
But you don't say that because they might have written it.
But you don't say that. And in fact, that whole thing is, hey, that's one of the worst approaches I get in going back to the last question. Is, dear site owner, we've noticed on your website that blah, 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 and they give a list of 4 weaknesses. First of all, I know it's a template email and they haven't bothered to look at my website. Second of all, like, really? You think that's how, it's like going to a bar, walking up to some person and saying, you know what, your hair's not very good, your pants don't fit, and your shoes are scuffed. Do you want a drink? Not going to work, not going to work.
That's a good example. Hey, so this is good. A specific question about samples. I had talked about earlier, if you don't have any samples, just write them. If you want to be an email writer, write emails. If you want to write landing pages, write landing pages.
Right.
Or when the client calls you and says, do you have any samples, ask them what kind of samples they want to see, and then write them. But this question is the second part of that. So Sandra says, I'm thinking of selecting a product in my niche to write a sample for. Does she need to contact the company to ask permission? How does that work when you're writing a sample about a product? Do you just rename the company into something fictitious? How does that?
I think it's always going to be more powerful to when I started off as a freelancer, I alluded to this earlier. I started off with my first 3 clients. One was that friend who was in business, another was local, and a third one was local. That was my first 3 clients. With each of them, I went up to them. So real clients, I said, look, I'm starting out as a freelance copywriter. I need 3 samples. And what I want is I'll do the work for you. I'm going to do this job for you. Not a huge, it's not going to be a huge multi-month job because I'm going to do this for free. Like the first guy, the friend, it was a 2-page sales letter I wrote for him for free. And I said, I'm going to do it for free, but if you like it, if it works, I want a testimonial, and I want to be able to use this as a case study. I did that 3 times. It's the only 3 times I've ever worked for free. and I did it specifically so I had those 3 samples. So I think real samples with real clients is always going to be better than like a pretend sample. Because a pretend sample is kind of like you couldn't get a real job. You had to do a pretend one. So I would, you know, pull up the big person.
I want to weigh in on that because I do think that a real sample is, you know, could be more valuable. I understand where you're coming from, but for me, if you want to write emails for me, for example, I'm more concerned with, do you understand my voice and tone? Do you understand the AWAI method for writing? And so I wouldn't actually want to see an email, let's say, that you wrote for a financial newsletter. It doesn't make any sense to me because that style of writing is not going to match me. So I love when writers say to me, you know, all the other projects I've done so far in other industries or at all, like, hey, Rebecca, can I just write a sample for you? You know, instead of giving you a sample that I've written for somebody else, let me write something that's unique to you. And then that's a great way of getting it. It's kind of like a spec because you're basically doing some writing, but at the same time, I've now given you the okay to do that. Right. And if I don't hire you, you could then turn around and send it to somebody else and say, this is an email that I had written for Rebecca over at AWAI, and just leave it at that. You know, I don't know. I'm okay with someone just showing me their writing style.
Yeah, no, I'll buy that. I think it depends a little bit on the.
So rare.
What?
I don't ever challenge you, and you just say okay. Usually.
No, but what you said, what you just described, I can see that working.
I've turned into my own. I want you to talk about this one too. This person, Cody, I'm going to tell you his question first. It says, Nick is talking about pricing for commissions for such as newsletters. I just received a small business client. They asked for a monthly newsletter, blog entry, and social media management. They are a small business. I can't expect them to afford $500 a month. I wrote back saying, ask what their budget is. First of all, you'd be surprised. And then ask yourself if $500 is worth that amount of time. Because this is something I learned from you very early on, the value of your time. It really depends where you are, right, in your business. Because that could suck up half his time, and he's only going to get paid $500 for it. But he could land another client that's worth way more than that in that same 20 hours that he'd be spending here.
Right. So that speaks to the what I was talking about earlier about, don't you dare pick up writing, blog posts for $20 a post. Again, I knew somebody who had a gig for writing 20 blog posts a week for a client. She was being paid $12 per post. So she was basically working for less than minimum wage. And the trouble is, the volume of work meant she had no time to look for other clients. So she was locked into below minimum wage and no opportunity to get out of it unless she dumped the client. So that's an extreme example, and it's a true one. It's a true story. But, yeah, absolutely, you've got to be careful, and you've got to be prepared when you get a situation where they're saying, oh, hey, I get it that they're a small company. Oh, and I know I played golf with the vice president, and he's a nice guy, and I don't want to disappoint him. But you've got to put your business first and yourself and your family first and say to them, look, that amount of work for that amount of money, it just cannot work for me. And I hope you can understand and respect that. And don't feel that you have to take jobs, and don't fool yourself. Don't lose at that mind game, because I know people, and I've been in the place, I've kind of wandered into this place myself where persuading myself that when I'm very busy means I'm being successful. And I've had to catch myself a couple of times during my career where I've been very busy, and then when I've taken that step back, I said, I'm busy, but I'm not being very successful because I'm doing way too much work for clients who don't respect me, and they're not paying me what they should, and I need to dump these guys and up my game. That's happened to me a couple of times, and it's easier to fall into during the early years of mistaking busyness for success.
I think that's so important, and it also brings up two more points. One, another big challenge when writers first start in this industry is I can't fathom them being able to pay this much money. You don't know that. You really need to understand, again, the value of what you bring to the table. Now, again, the local yoga studio is not going to be able to afford as much as the national yoga franchise, right? Because the amount of money that they're going to get in return for that investment is a lot greater at the national level than for that tiny little yoga studio. But you really have no idea what their business looks like. So there's that part of it. The second part of it is that we put our own personal value of money out there. So, you know, whatever $300 looks like to you is different than what it looks like to me, it's different than what it looks like to Nick, it's different than what it looks like to a company. Right. What feels like, how can they possibly pay me $1,000 for 750 words? You got to get out of that headspace, because that's not what, it's not for you to decide the value of $1. They know what the investment is worth. I know for every dollar that I spend on marketing as a marketer, what my return is, expected. I mean, unless I'm doing like a space ad in a magazine where I can't track it, which I wouldn't do anyways. But for every dollar that I spend on social media, on content writing, on articles, on emails, I'm constantly thinking about what is this going to bring back to me? And you don't know the answer to that question. So don't put your value of $1 on their value of $1, because it's not the same.
I've got a little mind trick you can use here, is when you're talking with the client, with the individual, and you're talking about money or thinking about money, and it's going to be thousands of dollars, think to yourself, this is not coming out of this person's private checking account. This isn't person to person. It's not their personal money I'm asking for. I'm not asking this person to take out their checkbook. I'm asking this person to go up the line to the accounting department to authorize a business check. It's not their money. They're not going to lose it individually or spend it individually. It's the company's money. And the company's money is always spent with a few extra zeros on the end compared to our personal checking accounts. And just as a kind of Jedi mind trick, remember when you're talking to the client as a person and you're nervous about the money you're asking for, you're not asking for their money out of their checking account. You're asking for money out of a business account, and that's a whole different mindset, and makes it a whole. You know, they know that. It's just as freelancers, sometimes we forget that, and we think we're asking that person for money.
This is like a whole other area of talking about, because even like going back to this example of this bakery business, and could they afford $500 or $1,000? Maybe not. And so that's probably not the right client for you. You really have to be thinking about your time, because just like there will always be bright, shiny objects with things to buy, webinars to attend, one more teleconference, one more book, one more program, one more workshop. There's all of these things that are trying to distract you. Clients and projects are the same. They can also be bright, shiny objects. Yes, I got a first client. This could be so exciting. Well, hold on a second. If they're going to suck up 40 hours of my week, I'm going to be stuck like that article project Nick was talking about. Well, now I'm going to be stuck there. So that's a decision that I'm making. If I say yes to this project, I don't have any more time, and I only have so many hours in the day, so now I'm not going to have time to market, and I'm going to have to then replace them. What if I just spent the next 40 hours finding a new client, a bigger client, a better client? Yeah. Now, you can be strategic about it. Like Nick was saying, you might decide, hey, I'm brand new. I want 3 people. This person's willing to pay me $500 for 40 hours of work. I wouldn't do that, but where you are in your career, it might make sense, because your mindset is, okay, I'm going to do this work. I'm going to get this done, and then I'm going to leverage this into a much bigger assignment. I'm not going to take a retainer with this company. I don't want them to suck up all of my time, but what I will do for them is a one-time thing. I'll help them come up with a marketing message. I'll help them come up with some things that they can replicate on their own, but I'm not going to sit monthly with them because I can't afford the time. It's just not worth it. So there's a way that you can still swing it, but you have to look at bright, shiny objects. And this is another thing I learned from Nick over all the years of coaching with him and working with him. You create a map for yourself. You create a path for yourself. And when a bright, shiny object appears, you look at it and say, does this fit on my path? Is this going to move me forward down my path? Whether it's a program, a webinar, or a client or a project, you have to say, does this help me move forward on the path? If it doesn't, I need to market that as such and put it aside and maybe revisit it at another time.
Okay,
but if it's going to help me move forward,
you were a good note taker, weren't you?
Right?
Yeah.
I'm one of the people who does. I'm a follow-througher person.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. Okay, I think we are coming into the close here. We've had 171 questions.
Wow.
Cam, Jade, and Cam, really great job answering so many questions. This is incredible. As far as finding companies that need copywriters, that's another big question. We can talk about this for a second. My advice is always to pick a niche and then research them.
Yeah.
If you just search as the person that they're trying to sell to.
I would say, as a general, totally general answer to that question, is that every company does. That's not entirely true, but that's the assumption I'd work with, that there is no company out there that could not see some improvement made to some aspect of its online business. Show me any company on the planet, and I'll find you where we can make improvements to their website, their email marketing, their social media, their content marketing, whatever. I bet I could find an area we could help with. Any company on the planet.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. We're getting so many great comments just saying this is super. They're very excited about it. It's a bit overwhelming, but very exciting to be in all of this and to see this opportunity. And so I'm going to send everybody on Monday. I'll send you a follow-up email with the recording to this, as well as access to the chat, the Q&A that we actually went over, and then anything else that I can think of that could possibly help you. Usually when I'm writing up these notes afterward, I'm like, oh, you know what would really help them is the pricing guide on this or this other webinar that we did on that. And so I'll post it all together so you have it all in one place. Nick, thank you so much for being here today. This was a very, not only was it a great informative session, but a really great conversation, I think, as well.
Good. Well, hey, you're always welcome. You know me, all these years in, I still get excited talking about this stuff.
Yay!
Which is a good sign. Good sign.
I agree. All right, everyone. So there's a link if you want to get the training on becoming an online copywriter. If you have, it's become an online copywriter. Somebody has a typo on her slide.
Yeah.
If you want the training, though, that's the link. Remember, I turned on the discount so that you can get it now. It ends on November 17th. Member Services is there. And if you have any questions, just shoot them over to me. I'm going to give you my email address on Monday. It's Ask Rebecca. It's not a secret. At AWAIonline.com. I'm also on Facebook, as is Nick. But if you have any questions about this opportunity, definitely let us know. There's so much out there. This program is where you get started, but there's also just, even if you just understand what we've talked about today, there was so much given here that should hopefully get you moving forward and understanding what the projects are and how to start going out there and getting work. So with that, I'm going to call it. It's a wrap.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Nick.
Bye.
Thanks, Cam, Jade, and
You're
Pam.
welcome. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.